I'm Tom Osman, and this is Whatever Comes Next. It's the podcast where I explore the world of underground and independent music making. And on today's episode, I am joined by Trevor Dunn, Gina Skwoz, and Kevin Rutmanis, who together are Done with Lords and Lady Kevin. And together, the three have recently put out their first album together with all three of them, which is Last Days at Hot Slit on Italian label Overdrive Records. And I have to say, this is one of my favorite interviews that I have ever done. The day I'm recording this is the day that I'm going to be posting this, which is the 24th of December, which for some people in Europe and elsewhere is Christmas. And for other people, like here in the UK, is the day before Christmas. And for some other people, is a day. But Kevin, Gina, and Trevor seem to me like people it would be really fun to spend Christmas with. And yeah, I think they had fun in this interview. I had fun in this interview. I was teased. Other people were teased, but it was all in good fun and good spirits. And I enjoyed it a lot. And I hope that you will enjoy it too. Things got a little bit messy at certain points. There was a little bit of sound difficulty with Kevin in the beginning that we sorted out. But I feel that the experimental ramshackle nature of elements of this recording fit quite well in the spirit of the experimental nature of this music. And I have to say as well that this album, and talking with Kevin, Trevor, and Gina about how they make it, has actually really inspired me in what I'm doing musically and the next thing that I'm working on at the moment. When they talked about how they went about recording this album, it's really inspired me quite a lot. So if you haven't heard the album, my take on it was experimental ambient blues. I think the way that Kevin described it was no wave gospel, or gospel no wave, which I think is also a very apt way of describing this. But yeah, as those descriptions probably tell you, this is not music that you can easily put a handle on. It is very experimental. It is, as I mentioned in the interview, at times very cacophonous, but it's also kind of smooth, which I'm laughing at because that's kind of like word of the interview was the word smooth. Anyway, I don't want to ramble on too much. Trevor Dunn is a legend in music from bands such as Mr Bungle. I was a little bit in awe. I was excited to get to talk to him. And Kevin Rutmanis is also another living legend, having been playing in numerous bands, including Cows, perhaps most notably. I wasn't so familiar with Gina before, but having gone on to investigate some of the visual art she does, the painting, the photography, fascinating, dark, twisted stuff. And this is fascinating, dark, twisted music. You can go onto Bandcamp to get hold of the album. You can listen to it on streaming services. If you're in North America, you'll be directed through directly to Kevin and Gina. If you're in Europe, you will be directed through to Overdrive Records. This is if you go onto Bandcamp. And if you're somewhere else in the world, I'm not sure. I guess you'll be siphoned off in one of those two directions. But yeah, these are really cool people, really fascinating, creative people, and they should be supported in everything that they do, in my humble opinion. If you would like to follow what Trevor, Gina, and Kevin are doing together musically, you can follow them on Instagram at done.with.lalk. And if you would like to follow what I'm doing musically, you can go to tomosmansounds.com. You can follow me on all social media at tomosmansounds. And I think that there's probably not anything else that needs to be said, but if there is, I will put it in the description. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to stop waffling. I'm going to play a clip from a track from the album, and then we can get into the interview, and then I will play one of the tracks in full at the end. And so there is nothing further to be said, but Kevin, Gina, and Trevor from Done with Lords and Lady Kevin. Thank you, and take it away.
Hi.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Ooh, very well, also. Nice use of grammar.
Well, let's see if I can maintain it.
I would have said I'm real good, thanks.
Well, I'm not American, so that wouldn't have been very authentic of me.
You're not?
No, is that surprising to meet someone who's not American?
I just would have never have guessed with that southern drawl.
Ah, I guess, American culture permeates into so many things. Trevor Dunn, hello.
I'm here. Stop talking about what you're talking about.
I,
Wow.
Just
okay.
kidding.
No, that's all good. I like a firm hand that guides me.
He's from southern Germany.
I'm
Um, are you talking about me or Trevor Dunn?
I know where Trevor's from. It's you that interests me.
Okay. No, I'm actually from Australia.
Southern Germany.
I used to live in Germany, but not particularly
Southern?
southern. Why did you think southern?
Because of the southern accent.
Oh, leider mein Deutsch ist nicht so gut, aber vielleicht wir können ein bisschen Deutsch sprechen.
Fuck you.
Wait, Kevin, you can tell, you can differentiate different German accents?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, because you're a Latvian or some shit.
Right. I'm mostly some shit.
I was wondering because Gina and Kevin, you've both got interesting surnames that I can't pinpoint. I mean, I'm not very good at telling where
Fuck
people are from
you.
anyway.
Well, I'm gonna log out. I'll talk to you guys later.
Is that actually Latvian, Kevin, where
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
family
Yeah.
from?
I'm actually
Sorry.
the American-born generation of my family because they came over. I don't know. They came over after the war, some war, and then I was born.
Some more.
Some war. Man, you look good today, Trevor.
Really? Well, I went to the gym this morning.
Oh, I'd hit that.
Yeah,
I'm
looks good.
I'm trying to figure out. I really want to change my. Oh shit! Am I still there?
Here.
That's a very existential question.
Yeah.
That's weird because where did it go? Oh, here it is. I'm trying to. I really want to have a different background, and I forgot how to
Yes.
do it.
Oh, you want a different? I thought you meant you wanted a different background in your family.
I wish
Yeah.
I was black.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey, I've never seen your eyes point in different directions like that.
what?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, mine point in different directions all the time.
Oh, I
Uh,
love that. Like my grandpa had it big time.
Yeah.
I can't really see it in you. Too
Yeah.
subtle.
Maybe now I've said it, you might notice it later on. Sometimes I see it in pictures and I'm a bit shocked by how much this one points out to the side.
That's cool.
I like to think it's a good thing, but it's probably going to
figure it
lead
out.
to long-term negatives. But anyway,
Oh,
sorry, I shouldn't ramble too long because I only have all of you for a limited time. You've recently put out together your Done with Lords and Lady Kevin album. I want to get the name right. Last Days at Hot Slit. I know
it all
which.
kind of just drips over your tongue, doesn't it? It's also smooth.
I mean, there is actually, in terms of the music, elements of it are quite cacophonous, but actually, I do find some of it quite smooth. I mean, it starts out with some very smooth bass, and it's kind of interesting. Like I've listened to it in various different settings and in various different states, and I don't even know if it's a crazy word to say soothing, but sometimes I kind of like it does kind of wash over me in a way that's pleasant, even though like I say, some of it's quite cacophonous. I don't know whether when you listen to the album now, does it have any particular impression on you?
I rarely listen to anything that I do after I've done it. I mean, sometimes actually that's not true. A lot of times I'll get the master or something, and I'll just check it, kind of almost forensically, just to make sure everything's cool. But I don't really go back and like listen to. I can't listen to anything objectively. That's for sure.
Mm.
But yeah, I remember. I mean, cacophony is definitely something that we're not afraid of, but I think, is this group is not afraid to do anything really.
Not afraid of smoothness either.
That's right, smooth bass line. That's you, I think, playing bass on that.
That's you.
That's you, baby. It's upright.
Wait,
Super.
check this out. I'm about to blow your mind. Yes.
Yay! Nice.
Are you okay?
I gotta go.
Yeah,
Just
it's probably
warm.
getting very warm in there.
So, all right, so let's clear this up then. Despair, is that actually Trevor that's playing the bass on that? I did think it sounded like it was upright bass, so I figured that would be.
Yeah. Boom, boom. The second I heard that, I started laughing.
He's also singing on it.
Yeah, he said
Picked
that.
on it.
Ah.
I think I recorded the bass. Is the bass have an effect on it on that one? It sounds like it has an effect, like a
No,
wah
it just
wah.
sounds like upright.
Oh, okay. There's one track I played like some upright stuff, and then I went back and doubled it with like a synth thing,
Yeah.
which took a while. I had to figure out what I played and then match it. But
So you put some work into these songs.
yeah, you know,
That was not my understanding.
that's not what you thought when you heard it.
No.
So you've,
Go ahead.
in different configurations, you've all worked together before. I mean, I think Kevin and Trevor, you were actually both in Tomahawk at one point together. Were you? Oh no, you weren't at different times.
No, they fired me and then they hired Trevor. That's why it's done with Rutmanis.
Hey, that's also smooth. So the two of you had a couple of releases together before this one, and Gina, you and Kevin have been recording together for a few years as well. Is this actually the first time that all three of you have had a project together?
Yeah.
How did this project, in terms of like the writing and the recording, compare to other recordings that you've done together in different configurations?
Well, I guess it was the same as far as like you guys go, except I'm on this one. Like
Right.
just basically Kevin and I had like a bunch of stuff we had all worked out together, and so we had like the skeleton of the music, and then sent it to Trevor, and then it just came together like that, just sending it back and forth.
How she and I worked before that, just kind of piecing things together. The world of computers is fantastic. It's really changed the whole game of songwriting in a really positive and fun way. Thank you.
Just from like a practical point of view, what software and programs are you using for this?
I don't know what that means.
We used Audacity because it's free.
Fair.
Yes. It's good for editing, and it has like a couple $3 effects on it. We recorded a lot of stuff on the phone, to be honest.
Yeah, a lot of that's recorded on the phone, like the drums, a lot of that. No, actually, sorry, my brother recorded a lot of the drums, but I think a couple of them were recorded on the phone as well.
The best sounding stuff really is Trevor's bass, because I believe he has actual equipment and he knows how to use it.
Sort of. I use Logic, and I've had it for a long time, but I'm basically self-taught on it. Every year I learn something new, and I thought, oh wow, why was I doing it that way for so long? There's a way easier way to do it. And I have a couple good microphones. So in terms of like recording upright bass, because I do that. I'm surprised how good it sounds. I mean, I have a preamp and a good mic, and that's it. I do that stuff every once in a while for people. They'll send me tracks, and I record here at home.
Jim, who does all our mixing, commented on how good the bass sounded, which proves how good the bass sounded.
That's proof.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, if I'm gonna describe, like I have to write. No, let me restart that sentence. I do write about music, and I always hate it when I have to try and describe things by genre.
It's tough.
And I was thinking, if I could give a genre categorization for this music, tell me if you think this sounds reasonable. I was thinking experimental ambient blues.
Yeah, for sure.
Good luck finding that bin in the record store.
I'm glad you noticed the blues in it.
Yeah, well, you do. I mean, you've got that not only for this reason, but you do have that track from a few years ago, Cocksucker Blues.
Oh, that's a Rolling Stone song.
Ah, it's a Rolling Stone song, because I kind of thought that it sounded vaguely familiar, but yeah, I mean, I guess you are drawing from some different blues influences here and there. And I was also kind of like, this might be a weird reference point, but I was thinking about Dead Rider. Are you familiar with those guys, like Todd Ritman?
Yeah, I love that band.
I don't know them. Look like Trevor knows them.
Yeah, it's the guy from
US Maple.
Maple. Yeah,
Oh,
and
oh.
and it's a great band. It's very improvisatory, but yeah, I saw them live once in Knoxville, I think. But
Well, I was thinking
yeah,
about the fact that like the music that they play has got like funk elements, and I tend to think of funk as being something that's quite kind of stuck in a particular time, but they take funk elements and they turn it into something that's totally different. So I was sort of thinking with what you're doing, like the blues aspect is something that maybe you've taken, but you've turned it into something that goes in all these different directions. So I kind of like if I can find some music and sort of go like, what are like the core elements of this, rather than trying to create some huge convoluted
I think it's really
multi-piece genre.
good. I'm impressed that you heard Cocksucker Blue. You've done your work. That's good. I kind of think of it also as gospel, like the early gospel that's kind of bluesy, because some of the lyrics I swiped from old gospel songs, and it kind of strikes me as that style a little bit. And so I personally have been calling it no wave gospel, but I think I like yours better.
Yeah, no, I mean, no wave makes sense as well. At what point in this did you decide that you were going to be bringing in like gospel and blues lyrics to use for the album?
I think when I was first thinking of the idea for this record, that was the idea I had in my head. I wanted some kind of loosey goosey, like drums and stuff, but with well, what we're saying. I just had that idea before we were doing it, and it kind of just happened. Gina just started playing drums in Australia, which I didn't know. And she sent me some stuff, and I was like, oh, that's exactly what I was thinking. What's that guy? I always forget his name. The guy that I got the idea from.
Angus McLeese.
Angus McLeese. I was listening, this guy's artsy fartsy guy. He was in Velvet Underground for a little while. And then he did drone stuff forever. Good drum. But I was looking at something his and had some kind of weird drumming, but the song itself seemed bluesy. And I thought, that's pretty cool. So basically, I'm just reinforcing what you said in a much duller and esoteric way.
I like things that are esoteric, and I like that word as well.
They didn't tell me about any of this. They just started sending me weird tracks, and I think it was maybe, I don't know, halfway through, I thought, wait, there's like a blues element here. I just realized, but none of that really mattered to what I added or what I sent back or whatever, because
we never talked about that aspect.
Not it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a text from you, Trevor, said, hey, this is blues. I was like, it is, you're right.
I figured it out.
No, I'm not even ridiculing. I'm just saying, it was in there in my head, but we never discussed it as the underlying.
Right. You were talking about genres and, the difficulty with that. And I mean, I think it's human nature to try and find some these boxes to put things in and find the familiar stuff, but now I totally lost my train of thought.
Nice.
I was thinking, one thing I've thought of with this music that we make is it's very collage like, it's like audio collage. We're not necessarily thinking about, well, at least I'm not thinking about form, or it's not the way I normally would write something where I sit down with a riff or a chord progression or a melody or something. This is more like, what can I glue on top of this or glue behind this and in whatever spot,
Or you could split it open and pour glue into the hole too.
Yeah, that's a good technique.
Yeah, I think we all do. We all like kind of so-called free music or whatever, and which I love. And like, I'll cite Albert Eiler. I love this guy. I loved him for a long time. But I kind of, like Trevor said, my ear wants to hear, I kind of want to hear things that are, as you said, smooth also. So I think it's like less aggressive, slightly less annoying kind of free music at times.
Yeah, that does make sense. Because it's like, I was thinking, if I go through like some of the notes I took on particular tracks, like High Q82, if that's the way I'm supposed to say that,
sure,
has got very impactful percussion. And then the next track, Humanity One, I thought it almost sounds like kind of an extension of that it's quite percussion driven, but more sort of like alien and spacey. But then it goes quite ambient, and it becomes like smooth, which is now going to be my word of the day. But it was like, it has these surprising points where it's like, oh, okay, this is quite a barrage. And then you go like, oh, like now it's like massaging me. It's cool the
Oh
way
my
that
God.
you do meander in these different ways.
I wish all listeners were like you.
Yeah,
Incredible.
actually paying attention.
Yeah,
Bless
it's
your
amazing.
heart.
My hat's off to you. Hat.
Oh, thank you. And I hear you do have a lot of hats, Kevin.
I do like hats. This one was inspired by Trevor, kind of.
Really?
This is sort of his style. Right, Trev?
Yeah, I guess so. Black.
I never asked you about this, Trevor. I found it quite strange. Quite strange, Trevor. I was, what's that man? Mr. Bungle. They were playing somewhere in Europe, and I was on the side of the stage, and they were playing. And Trevor's like, come here. And I went over, and he said, can you go downstairs and get my hat out of my backpack?
In the Western world, we lack a lot of ritual. So I have little rituals that I adhere to once in a while. And playing with my hat on stage with that band, a lot of times a particular tour, I'll have a specific hat I'll wear and I, for some reason, I forgot it downstairs, and I realized after the first song, I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this show without this hat on. So, I mean, of course I could have.
I found that very peculiar in a really nice way. You were not bothered by the fact that you were putting me way out.
You weren't doing anything.
No, that's true. I had to go down 2 floors in the building, find the dressing room, which I'm not very good at, and then I had to go into your backpack, which I didn't know which one it was. And so it was great.
Do you think that brought you closer together?
No.
Yeah, well, apparently I'm never going to hear the end of this.
Just one further thing I wanted to ask you about what you said about sending things back and forth. When you're doing it that way, like, sending stuff to Trevor and then Trevor sending back, how did you decide when something was finished?
When Trevor sent it back.
Okay. You're like, we're only going to get one thing from him. No, this is going to have to be it.
I'm just saying that because, like, once we sent it to Trevor and he sent it back, it was just immediately great. So it was just, and then we sent it to Jim, and then Jim's the guy who mixes it, and then he kind of puts his own little strangeness on it, and then I guess, I mean, that's about right?
I think it goes back and forth maybe a little more than that. Not much. She's right.
Yeah.
Also, it's sort of an attention span thing. Like, I just forget we're working on a song and I start working on another one. So I guess the first one's done.
Yeah, I suppose they did. Yeah, but it wasn't like, I don't remember sending it back and forth too much, but maybe
there's been a couple times where I thought, why don't you guys add something to this, or this would be great if you sang on it or something. I don't know, like.
Yeah, no, I think it did. Gina was drunk the whole time, so she probably doesn't remember.
I just don't remember.
And I was wondering, because I saw you say, or I heard you say in an interview that the track listing mostly ended up just being kind of accidental because it was what came through alphabetically. And I was thinking, first of all, like, it just works really well the way that you've got the track sequenced. And then I was thinking, you did that accidentally, and it made me think of, again, this is kind of a random reference, but it made me think of the British experimental band Coil, because I know that they were really into doing things accidentally and then going like, here's an accidental thing that happened, we're going to use that. So I was wondering, is that more generally something that you guys invite in sort of like doing stuff accidentally and going, oh, I wasn't expecting to do that, let's use that, like whatever subconscious thing that was?
Yeah, that's a great tool. I find it's stuff I wouldn't have thought of. Same with the alphabetical order. Is the first time it happened, I was like, this is a great order. I wouldn't have thought to do this order. And it seems to always kind of work out. And my first band was this band, The Cows, and we were just like apes with guitars and stuff. But we had a joke that we would really use. There's I don't know if it's true, I think it was Navajo, American Indians. Navajo made these really nice rugs. And we had heard that when there was a mistake, they just made that part of the pattern. So if a mistake happened in the studio, we'd always look at each other and go, Navajo rug? And then, we just leave. Yeah. So anyway, it's a nice, natural, it seems to always work, or else I just don't know.
Yeah. I mean, even that thing I was talking about, I think I improvise. with this project, I really try not to overthink stuff. So I'll just put something on and do the first thing that I think of. And, I improvised that bass line, I think, and then went back and doubled it with a synth, which makes it kind of formalizes it, makes it, now it's not just an accident. Now it's like a written part,
Right. I remember one time, Trevor, I did something and then you added something. It was just you and me, and you sent it back. And I was like, oh, this doesn't, I can't believe I did this. This doesn't sound right. Whatever that means. And then I was trying to adjust what key I played the guitar in or something. And then I wrote to you and you're like, no, I did that on purpose. Do you want me to change it? And then I went back and listened to it. I was like, what the fuck am I even thinking? So the one time I tried to impose my genius ear, it was wrong. So I try not to have ideas.
And Trevor, is this the first time that you ever played saxophone on this? Well, on a record. I'm not saying like literally the first time you picked one up, but
it's not the first time I picked one up. I played clarinet that was my first instrument when I was in grade school, and I was borrowing a friend's saxophone at the time because during the pandemic I was like, oh, maybe now I can finally learn how to play the sax, which is what I actually wanted to play. And then I have a little bit of an embouchure and some idea about fingerings, but not very much, which is kind of the perfect amount for this kind of stuff. So yeah, I just wailed on it as best I could. Yeah, so it's the first time I've ever recorded saxophone.
Trevor, do you have a clarinet now?
I do, yeah.
Oh man, I love clarinet.
Yeah, I'll put some clarinet on the next one.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you as well about the artwork. So Gina, this cover is from a photo shoot of yours, I think. And I'm not sure, is this something that you did specifically for the record, or you picked this after you'd already done it? Because I've seen various different photography and artwork that you've done, and I feel like there's some running themes.
Yeah, so I just I've been doing a lot of photography lately, but no, this came, I already had the photos before. Like, I didn't do it specifically for the cover. Usually I'll do like a drawing or something for the cover, but I just thought maybe using some photography would be good. And we kind of like, I don't know, Kevin and I went through a bunch of my photos, and like it came to being that one was the best choice. Like, there were some other photos that we were going to have, and then we decided that this one would work better, I think. So yeah,
we did. I mean, the photos, we edited them we tried a few different things. And I think that's uncensored, unedited the picture, and they said, we want to use the whole picture. It's such a great picture. But I think it's because you could see Gina's pubic arch. And I think that's the reason they thought it was such a great photo.
So we insisted, I mean, not because I'm shy, but we insisted on having it cropped.
It looked better.
Because that was how I envisioned it for the cover anyway.
Look at Trevor's disappointed.
What's that?
You look so disappointed.
Thank you.
And I was wondering, like I say, when I was looking through it, some of your other artwork, I noticed that you do a lot of stuff where you've got people with what I guess is kind of like a dental instrument inside their mouth. And I also noticed like you did some artwork for a Danish band called Collapse. And I noticed that you also sometimes have this thing where you've got like some kind of insertion in the forehead. I'm wondering if there's any particular reason for this kind of art that you do with people having their heads split open and their mouths wide open, like where that comes from.
Oh, it's just like probably, I don't know, like, haven't you ever felt that pressure in your head and it just needs to go?
No, we haven't.
Well, I don't know. I don't know where it comes from. It just that's just what happens. Like that just sort of came naturally. I guess it's just like I really like discomfort. I really like the people I take photos of, like they really, to do the paintings, they really put up with a lot, because I have to get them to do these really uncomfortable things, because that's what I want to have in the images. So the mouth thing is part of that. Plus I just like the way that looks, and yeah, it's an aesthetic thing, and yeah.
It's cool. I certainly wasn't trying to suggest that you were a weirdo or anything. I was just fascinated to know where it came
it's
from.
Fine. Yeah.
Are you definitive now?
When I first saw sorry, we were just sort of talking, and it was a long time ago. At that point, kids did all these pages of men in children's pajamas, tearing themselves apart. And I was just being conversational. You seem to have an issue with men. And she said, why do you think that? There was nothing but men ripping themselves apart. Never mind. True story.
And thinking about then, like the way that you've constructed the packaging for the album, because I've noticed that you've, I think since the first release you did, maybe actually when it was just you, Kevin, when you had, what was it called? Lord Kevin and his slide bass. I think you put that one out as a very, very limited 10-inch vinyl, which I think you've done quite a lot in this project. And now you've got the latest release with various different vinyl versions. So could you tell me a bit about what formats you put it out and like why you've chosen, well, I guess like what's the vinyl fascination? Because I really like vinyl, but like just like bringing Trevor back into it, I've listened to, well, I've actually interviewed Buzz Osborne a couple of times, and I've listened to various interviews of his, and I know he's quite like dismissive of vinyl in terms of like the sound of it. He's just like, oh, vinyl, digital, no one can hear the difference, even though, you know, Melvin's put out loads of amazing vinyl. So just kind of like wondering whether for sound perspectives or just because you think they look cool, like vinyl up there, like any particular attraction that you have, or like what are the attractions you have towards vinyl? Sorry, that was an extremely long-winded question.
That's fine. I think people really, I don't know, it's people like to have a thing, like the big thing, and like, you know, like the colors, you know, the colored vinyl, and it's like I don't know, it's like an object that people like to have. So it's fun for me, it's more fun for me personally to create art for vinyl because it's large and like you could be really open with it. But
objects is good. You know,
Kevin, I'm just noticing, I think when you're off to the side, the sound is kind of disappearing with you.
How about now?
Now it's
way
totally
better.
fine.
It's good. It's good. It's an object, the art that people can have, you know, and it's affordable, but they're very nice. And as far as sound goes, I mean, technically, if you talk to a mastering person or anyone, they're like, vinyl does not sound as good good, meaning it's a much wider range, you know, of sounds that you can hear. But a lot of vinyl, the old vinyl, it's, you know, it's EQ'd and mastered for vinyl. So it's a very specific sound. So yeah, analytically, it might be, oh, it's not as big a spectrum, but that is not, to me, necessarily, therefore, it's not as good. It's just not as accurate if you're trying to reproduce the actual sounds. I love buying vinyl. That's something that back then was meant to be pristine and perfect. And then you hear it on vinyl. And I like it if it's a beat up copy. That's even better because it adds this whole other twisted world. But we don't listen to that much vinyl. It's not like I used to. I don't hunt down everything on vinyl that I like, but there's I just want to hear the music a lot of times. So it doesn't matter to me what format it's in. And people like vinyl. And so that gives Gina a chance and all of us a chance to do these visual things with it. It's just a win-win.
I mean, I don't really buy new vinyl. I still buy used vinyl, you know, usually old stuff, kind of like what Kevin's talking about, old beat up stuff. But yeah, if I want to hear some new contemporary classical piece, I'm going to buy it on CD because it's just going to sound better. But people are buying vinyl these days, and which is why we're making it, because they're going to buy it.
Yeah, true. Oh yeah, I forgot that part. We want to make money.
Yeah.
But to that point, like I'm quite fascinated by the fact that you do these extremely limited runs. How does that work? Because I tend to think that if you're going to release vinyl, like the more copies that you press, the cheaper it's ultimately going to be. So how do you do that with like 30 copy pressings? I mean, I don't think have you done that with the latest release as well? Do you have some like super limited versions of it?
No. Sorry, go ahead.
We are going to have 10 super limited.
Right, out of the big thing, we might make special ones with special art. Those were lathe cut, those early ones with so and the music. It was like I wasn't willing to make a bunch of them and then have a stack of weird records nobody wants. So we made, these
Made runs of 30.
yeah, small runs, sold them. They're esoteric and a word you like, and they're interesting. Were they one-sided? No, we did some ones, and it was just like a project thing. It wasn't realistic to try to.
We weren't marketing anything at that point.
Yeah.
Also, this stuff isn't, believe it or not, it's not a huge seller. And it's kind of, I think it's important to make it, not make too much. Because I definitely have plenty of CDs that I'm on that I've put out myself or whatever that have not sold, and they're just taking up space until I decide to throw them in the furnace. So, it's better to make what you think is actually going to sell. And if people want more, then they can buy the next thing.
It's a good point. Yeah, I guess it is a tricky balance. Like you say, you want to have a good amount, but you don't want to end up just having a load of it sitting around.
Right.
Yeah.
And
that's a good lesson we learned from Buzz, kind of, is you won't see with a big stack of 100 T-shirts at the end of the tour. He doesn't overdo anything. It's within know your market, I guess. And what we were doing in those early ones, that was during the pandemic. We were just doing them at home, and this guy would do, they cut those in real time, so it takes a minute too to make them. And it was just like a little fun thing to do during the pandemic. We ended up making quite a few of them, and sometimes we just private message people and just say, "You want to buy this? Sure, okay."
Yeah, we had
It's more of a calling card kind of thing. Here's something you really won't like. Check it out. That kind of
I like them.
Oh, I know. I've never had an interviewer so not stupid.
No. That's definitely not true, because you got interviewed by Nate Goyer, and I'm a big fan of his.
Know what that is.
he was great.
He's the vinyl guide guy, the guy that loves vinyl.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Nate. Yeah. He's very enthusiastic about stuff.
So just like, and this is not the most exciting question, but it is quite practical. Something that I've noticed in recent times, I don't really know, like, behind the scenes why it's ended up like this, but international postage is just becoming horrific. So it's
I just was at the post office earlier today. I mailed a cassette tape to Germany, and it was $20.
Yeah.
I mean, a cassette tape doesn't, how much does that weigh? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I mean, we ship, like, I have to tell people internationally that it's going to be like, if Europe, if they want like a record, it's almost $50.
Yeah.
That's why we try having a label in Europe, because when it's we just tell people outright, we're only doing US because it's stupid. You won't want to do it. We have a German guy that buys everything, and he's willing to do it. But that's why it's nice for the label. They can do Europe without a problem. Poor Canada, I don't know if you've heard, and their postal people are all on strike. Our post office has a big sign that says, "Don't send anything to Canada because we're not going to do it."
Oh shit! I had no idea. I guess, like, in Europe, it's hard to have a perspective of the scale. I just think like, like Canada's next door to the US, so it must be simple.
Yeah,
and it's expensive too.
Yeah, it's very expensive. We don't even sell. That's why it was so good getting these guys. These guys are willing to help us out at the Overdrive.
Overdrive, yeah. So in that case, if people want to get hold of the album, should they go directly to Overdrive if they're in Europe?
Well, the thing is, on the Bandcamp, I think, like, when you go to our Bandcamp, whether you go to Overdrive or us, like, it knows where you are. So if you're in the USA, it sends you directly to us.
Yeah.
Or if you're anywhere else, it sends you directly to Overdrive. So
it's cool.
It's automatic. So, like, I think people can just I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Like, if there is, it just knows where you are. So if you're in Germany and you go to the Bandcamp, it'll automatically be shipped from Europe.
That totally makes sense, because now I'm looking at Bandcamp and I can see it's coming up in euros, so that fits.
Yeah. Not yet.
Oh, at the same time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, have you performed this stuff together? Are you planning to? Like, I know that Trevor is has always got tons of different projects going on. But is there a possibility that you'll be able to get together and perform all three of you on stage together?
We'd like to, but who knows, how to, it's hard to arrange things these days, especially because the touring life thing is a lot different than it used to be. And as you know, Trevor lives on the other side of the country. But yeah, we would really like to, and hopefully we'll be able to. We just haven't pulled it off yet.
Yeah, I used to, I've been in New York 25 years now. When I first got here, it was a huge thing for these kind of jazz and improvisers to go to Europe. And there's a lot of government funding over there. And that is gotten way harder. There's been a lot of countries have pulled back on that, and I just don't go there as often. And so yeah, it's a drag, but
it's true.
Touring's not easy anywhere financially.
Right, and it was always like a lot of work, but you could make it work. But now it's like we've been trying to do a Europe thing, figure something out. But yeah, there used to even be like government money that they would throw towards bands in Europe.
But now actually, I discovered that that's still the case in France. I was interviewing a French band recently, and apparently they do grants over there. Yeah, which I thought was cool. But that was kind of like the first time I'd heard someone talk about that. So I guess maybe it is a bit of a dying concept.
It's different. It's different, in the early days back in the 19th century when I started doing this with the cows, you could honestly just sort of jump in the van and you could make it work, but we were also sort of indigent. But you could do it. You could go town to town and it would work out. But now you really can't do that. Ears are different. People listen to music differently than they used to, and there used to be more in style. Or the people I knew you went to shows because I wonder what that is. Interesting, or this guy, whatever. It was more. To me, it seemed like there was more people that were willing to check stuff out that they didn't know what it was. Yeah. And that's, I think, kind of gone now.
In terms of, if I can sort of divide it in this way, thinking about what I sort of perceive as being a difference in the past where a lot of people discover music live, like they'd go to shows, and that's kind of like how you built up a following. And then you could, bring releases to shows. And now, obviously, we've had the pandemic, but then we've got this whole sort of change in music where so many things are done online and different streaming services are now popular. Like so many people seem to just listen to music through streaming services. Like, what do you kind of think about the trade-off between these different ways? Because you mentioned before how great it is to be able to send stuff electronically, but do you have kind of an overall view how you feel of the current state of affairs where a lot of stuff is, like musically digested online rather than face-to-face?
I think the biggest way to sell merchandise is being on the road. You take it. I have CDs I've had for years that people they're up online. I've posted about them zillions of times. But then I went on tour with Buzz and I sold, a bunch, not a ton, but, a lot more than I had in the past 20 years. Just because it's at a show, if people go to a show, they kind of want to take something away from a show. They almost doesn't matter what it is. But in terms of like putting music out online and trying to make a living by putting out records, it's pretty grim.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit generational, to be honest, too. I don't think the up and coming listeners it's just, everything's different, and different is just different. It's not bad or good. It's just, you got to roll with life, and it, like I said about jumping in the van back a long time ago is, you knew in your head, it'll work out if I just go play everywhere. And it's just not true anymore. And Trevor's right. The only way to make any money that actually, any money is to sell merchandise. But then how do you get on tour, So it's a dilemma. I don't think listening style and live attendance style, I think it's going up with as people get older. And I feel like that might be the last wave of people that are going to want to do it that way. I'm meaning audience and listeners.
It's got to find something new.
I've used this analogy in other interviews, but I think it's apt, is that in the end of the 19th century, young people were really into poetry. They read poetry and they wrote poetry, and it just died out. Nobody does it anymore. That's just how it is. And I kind of think that might be happening with this strata of music and stuff.
Yeah, I have to remind myself sometimes that I benefit so much from technology because it's like most of the interviews that I do, almost all of them are like this through the internet. And so it's an amazing opportunity that it gives me. But then on the other hand, I still tend to have this feeling like, oh, I don't want to lose the face-to-face.
Right.
But yeah, actually just a little incidental thing. I actually saw Trevor and Buzz play in Glasgow quite recently. And I went to go talk to Trevor afterwards and I was high as shit. And I went over and I was like, hi, Trevor. And then I was like, how's the tour going? And then I just stood there like a sausage for a while and then I walked away. So I'm pleased that I had the opportunity to actually talk to you properly.
You don't know how many conversations like that I've had on tour.
Yeah, it's a bar after all.
I don't remember that at all. So
I'm happy that you don't remember it. It's all good. I'd rather you remember this conversation.
I was drunk myself.
I've had drunk people when I was at a Melvins show come up and insist I sign something, and they're so drunk I keep going, I'm not in the Melvins. Thanks for signing this, man. Come on. And I remember Buzz sitting there and him going, just sign it. He's never going to hear you.
That's pretty good. I used to work in a bookshop and I had some Chinese tourists come in one time and they wanted me to sign their copies of Harry Potter. Like, I don't think they thought I was J.K. Rowling, but somehow I think like they wanted the bookseller to sign it so they could take it back. It was quite sweet. So somewhere in China, there are some special edition Harry Potter books with my signature on them.
Nice.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
The closest I get to being famous.
Me too.
Right.
It's as close as you want to be.
Indeed. Gina, Trevor, Kevin, it was lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. And
thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the music.
Great. It's really nice to talk to someone that vaguely seems to care.
Thank you so much.
He does have a Mr. Bungle record up on his shelf there, I see.
It's true. And I'd like to say as well, I didn't just stick that there like because we were having this interview. I had the Swans, the Einstürzen, the Neubauten, the Killing Joke, and the Mr. Bungle up there. I just decided they're the coolest ones, and they just stay there.
That's definitely a really good. If I can say anything about Mr. Bungle, that's that album cover, which was my idea. I discovered it. That's one of the best things we ever did.
Is it this photo, this thing?
Yeah, yeah.
I've seen that photo. What is it? I've seen it in a photo book.
It's a deep sea fish. This woman is holding it up to her eye, and I found it. We kind of had this deep sea theme going on with that record, and I went to the library in San Francisco and was looking through books, and I found it. I'm like, this is a great album cover.
Right.
And it looks really good on the vinyl too, the big vinyl like that.
Right.
That's also actually the original version that's got the extra groove. So if you find the secret song, you can go on. Do I actually remember now? Did you do that with one of your records, one of the Lords and Lady Dunn records, to have like I don't know what you call it, but at the end where it just makes the record play forever?
A lock groove?
A lock groove,
it's probably just shitty vinyl. I think there might be a lock groove on this record now, only because the label asked us, can we do a lock groove? And we're like, okay. And I made one, in 6.9 seconds, but it's good because the last song is indifferent. So it's kind of perfect. So it's just me over and over again saying indifference, indifference, indifference. So you can listen to that for hours, really.
There you go. Another kind of accident that's quite cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much again. And
thank you.
All the best until next time.
All right.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks
Bye.
a lot.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Can you do this?
We can do that if you want. Sure.
Nice.
I can do that.
If we do sign languages, I love heavy metal.
That's right.
Alright, take it up, hook up. Alright, take it up, hook up.
Take it up, hook up.